My daughter has called me 4 times in the last hour. She wants to know why I kicked him out. She's crying, telling me I'm throwing away my last chance at companionship, that I'm being stubborn. If you are a woman in your 60s, if you are widowed or divorced, and your kids or your friends are nagging you to get back out there because they are terrified you're going to die alone, I need you to listen to me right now. Delete your dating apps, lock your doors, and protect your peace, because I listen to them. I'm 65 years old, and I let society convince me that my independence was just a sad form of loneliness. I let a nice, charming man move into my house, and I have never been so miserable in my entire life. You see, I lost my husband when I was 58. I spent the last 5 years of his life as his full-time nurse. I administered the medications. I drove to the specialists. I washed the sheets. And when he passed, God rest his soul, I was completely depleted. But over the next few years, I built a life for myself, a really beautiful, quiet life. I drank my coffee at 6 a.m. in absolute silence. I traveled with my girlfriends. My house was pristine. My money was my own. I had finally exhaled. But my daughters, they couldn't stand it. Every phone call was the same. Mom, you need companionship. Mom, it's dangerous for you to be alone in that big house. Just try one dinner. So I caved. I met a man named Richard. Richard was 68, and I will admit he was incredibly charming. On our first few dates, he wore tailored jackets. He opened car doors. He drank martinis and talked animatedly about how he wanted to rent a villa in Tuscany next summer. He was energetic. He made me feel seen. He made me feel young again. It was a mirage. It is almost always a mirage. At our age, the dating pool isn't full of men looking for an equal partner to explore the world with. It's full of men who are terrified of aging alone, looking for a retirement plan. 6 months in, his lease was up. He told me it made financial sense for him to move into my house. My house, the one I paid off. I ignored my gut. I let him bring his things in. It didn't happen all at once. It was a slow invasion. First, it was the thermostat. I liked the house cool. He was always cold. So suddenly, my own home feels like a sauna, and I'm sweating in my own living room. Then it was the television. The quiet mornings, gone. The news was blasting at volume 40 by 7 a.m. But the most maddening part, the part that made me feel like I was completely losing my mind, my daughters still thought he was a saint. Whenever they came over to visit, suddenly Richard was out of his recliner. He's pouring wine, he's telling jokes, he's complimenting my cooking. My own kids would pull me aside in the kitchen and say, "Mom, you are so lucky to have him. He is so wonderful." And the absolute second the front door closed behind them, the smile dropped. He walked away, sat back down in his chair, and left me with a sink full of dishes. He was playing a character for them, so that if I complained, I looked like the crazy, ungrateful woman. I suddenly realized I was doing his laundry. Why? Because if I didn't, he would just leave it piled in the corner of my guest room until it smelled. About 4 months in, I couldn't take it anymore. I tried to set a boundary. I sat him down at the kitchen table and said, "Richard, I need you to start pitching in for the groceries and the electricity. "You live here now." Do you know what he did? He didn't yell. He just looked down. His eyes watered, and he said, "I'm sorry I'm such a burden to you. I guess I'll just skip my heart medication this month so I can pay for your electricity." He weaponized his own health. He used it to make me feel like an absolute monster just for asking for $50 toward the light bill. And then the health facade completely dropped. He had severe dietary restrictions that he completely failed to mention at those Italian restaurants we used to go to. I was sitting in his cardiologist's office with him 3 months ago. The doctor walked in, looked at Richard's chart, and then immediately looked at me. Not Richard, me. The doctor started rattling off instructions to me about Richard's new medication schedule and what I needed to cook for him. In that exact moment, sitting in that sterile little room, it hit me like a ton of bricks. His adult children never visited him. They dumped him on me. He told me he was on a fixed income. So naturally, I was paying for all his special dietary food. Last Tuesday, I went to Costco. I was buying his specific, expensive brand of low-sodium soups, his vitamins, his protein shakes. I spent $250 of my own retirement money. When I got home, it was pouring rain. I was hauling the heavy, oversized boxes out of the trunk by myself. My back was aching. I walked inside, completely out of breath, soaking wet. And Richard? He was sitting on my couch, using my Wi-Fi, buying a $400 titanium golf driver on his iPad, while I was standing there holding his groceries. The breaking point was last night. My oldest granddaughter had her first middle school choir solo. I was so incredibly excited. At 5:15, I have my coat on, my keys in my hand. I'm walking out the door, and Richard looks up from his ugly brown recliner and says, "What are we doing for dinner? I'm hungry." I didn't even yell. The fog finally lifted. I looked at this man, this near stranger sitting in my chair, in my house, expecting me to cancel on my own flesh and blood to heat up his soup. I said, "I am going to my granddaughter's concert. When I get back in 3 hours, I want you, your recliner, and every single thing you own out of my house." He tried to argue. He tried to guilt me. He told me I was going to die alone. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "I would rather die alone in a quiet house than live one more day as your maid." So to the women watching this, if you are sitting in a quiet, clean house right now, do not take it for granted. Do not let society shame you into giving up your freedom. A bad relationship doesn't cure your loneliness, it violently amplifies it. You do not need a man to validate your existence. Protect your money, protect your peace, stay single.